Oh, wait. I forgot to do that other part. That other thing. Ready, one. Emily Nader. Hello today. Good afternoon.
Good morning from me.
Well, it could be all different times when people listen to this. So,
That's true.
good moment to you out there in listening to podcast land.
Good day, good night.
Good.
But
In
as
case I
a
don't see you,
hello.
good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Ah, hello today.
Hello.
So, the the stuff I kind of had in mind, because you and I have been on this Ask the Expert thing together. I if I had to round about just guess, I would say probably about 100,000 times.
Yeah,
Uh,
seems like
and
about that number.
I don't think we've ever had a one-on-one conversation. And then that one time when we got forced into doing that, just an accidental. Here's just you and me sitting here talking. I was like, what the heck? Why did we never do this? Let's make a recording episode out of this and have some fun.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you did and that happened because they're
Mm-hmm.
just like, so you want to be on my podcast?
Mm-hmm. Well, because like a lot of the times it's just we're all part of like a panel and like we're like you know I guess we would call that like holding back, just kind of like like what's the word I'm trying to what's the wording I'm trying to
It,
say?
it
Uh,
almost feels like you have
we're
to sum up your
Yeah,
thoughts in a way.
you really have to be like, all right, I'm going to get this word, I'm going to get in this phrase, I'm going to get in this sentence, and then I'm going to shut up because now the host has to talk, and
Yeah,
now his
yeah.
other panel members have to say things. So I'm going to like not monopolize over the time and let everybody get a chance to say something.
Yeah,
But
at
now,
least you have that awareness.
now I'm here, and I do that a lot here too. I just talk right over people sometimes, and I apologize for that.
I mean, me too. Sometimes I feel like I have so much to say, and then my brain goes into like this rabbit hole, and all these things are like connected to this one thing that I'm talking about. And then all of a sudden I'm talking for so long and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna be quiet now.
What are like your favorite rabbit holes to if you're going on YouTube? Like let's say like right after this, you're going on to YouTube, you're looking up stuff. You're getting stuck in like a rabbit hole, a scroll hole. What are you scrolling about? What's like your favorite like genre of like conspiracy theory rabbit holes to fall down?
Yeah. Well, just with the space that I'm in, I think I've put myself into a place of like, well, I'm really interested in like personal development, spirituality. So I'll easily fall down a rabbit hole on people's ideas, and one might call a lot of those things conspiracies. And I'll just like kind of get into that. And then also being in the health world, there's so much conspiracy or like things that are connected to like our government that are absolutely insane. Where it's like, and you start to learn these things and hear about these things like in our food supply and in our healthcare system. That's like a big rabbit hole that I can go down, even to the level of like farming. Like, yeah, like have to stop myself.
the I find myself a lot, and I even said this on the last panel we were on. I find myself a lot getting into like time travel rabbit holes. I
Mm-hmm.
love like looking up like, dude, I got stuck in like a Donald Trump being a time traveler rabbit hole this week, and there's like all these coincidences like that are too perfect
Uh-huh.
to go like how is this not all the way accurate? Like 14 exact coincidences that
Yeah.
would say that like Nikola Tesla uh, had all his like time travel research, and he gave it to John Trump, who was like Donald Trump's family member, and then these like trunks got like taken from there to go to like the Tesla museum, and like there's like 10 missing trunks, and then they wrote a book called Baron Trump's Underground Time Traveling or something like that, and it was like there was like a Don in that book. It was all, and it was about like some election happened, and then there was like a riot on Fifth Avenue where Trump Tower is now. Like a lot of it was like, that's
Something's weird. Something feels but also feels right.
right.
That's funny. I
I
mean,
mean, time travel fascinates the hell out of me.
yeah.
Uh, I don't think that any of that's really a conspiracy in any way, and I don't call it
Mhm.
conspiracy as much as I just go like they're really convinced. Like there is as much of a time traveler rabbit hole as there is like a flat Earth rabbit hole. Like
Yeah, I
flat
didn't even
earthing,
realize.
and
What
I
is
have
considered, like, your definition of time traveling? Because I could also consider, like, riding a bike as time traveling, you know?
well, like it's really funny because I make a joke like that, and only when there's like kids in the car. But they're like, "Are we there yet?" I'm like, "Well, we just were there. Now we're here, and then now we're here. Now we're here. Now we're here. We are we there? Yeah, we were there, and we're here there. Now we're that there. We're this here's there.
They're like, "Ugh,
It's a
Uncle
it's a
Cory, please
cycle."
stop."
Yeah, yeah. Please just stop. Just if you could just not do that.
Yeah, so what is time traveling then? What is the definition of that, that you consider?
I don't really know if it's definable. I mean, um, like like passing knowledge from a different thing into another thing. Like if like in the some of the videos that I've seen, they're like, oh, here was a time traveler who's he was in the photo that was taken before that technology existed, but holding like a smartphone. Or this
Uh-huh.
person's talking on a cell phone when cell phones didn't exist for another 100 years. Or like
Mhm.
he's taking a photo of Mike Tyson with a smartphone when like that was in the 80s. Like that, there's a whole bunch of weird things like that, like the compilations
Mhm.
of different bizarre site. I
Yeah,
think a lot of times, and maybe I just don't have maybe I just don't have the 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 focus on this, like to make this my thing. But there'd just be like TikTokers who compile this information and like do it like with a green screen behind them and just react to the. Oh, I don't have the ability to do that somehow. Like, maybe I've seen too many things that have legit shocked me that I can't go. Oh, I can't like turn it up and turn it on for
yeah,
being an influencer.
yeah,
But I mean, I do like sincerely react to things, but I can't like put a whole pile up of things together that I want to react to.
yeah, yeah. Where it's like, "Oh, there's this instance and then this instance," and then when you pull it up again, you're just like, "Well, I've already reacted had my first reaction to this,
Yeah, I'd be like,
and so
oh,
now
I'm
it's
gonna
just."
manufacture a reaction to this thing I already legit reacted to.
Yeah, and make it seem
Mhm.
authentic.
Right, right. Authenticity is the name of the game.
Yeah. I
I,
mean, people can tell.
I, I think that's why I wanted to have this like long form, open sort of like it could be anything, and the definition of it is that it's ever evolving. You know, it could be something different in 5 years. It could be something different tomorrow. It could
Yeah.
be uh, the funny thing about it, and I'm pretty sure I've told this story on the podcast before, but like when I first wanted to do this podcast, and when I my first like long lost episodes that don't exist anywhere, I would talk about uh, how I wanted to write a book. But the thing was, I think that I thought different things when I started writing a book like it was like an autobiographical book, and I would like have these hills that I would die on that I don't think I die on now.
Mhm.
So like people would read the book and come back to me in 10 years and be like, hey, you said this thing and that's wrong, and this is that's you're a real jerk here, and I'd be like, I know, I don't believe that anymore either. So I figure, like in Wayne's World, when he's like, oh, what if the sponsors had a weekly spot on a TV show that they
Uh-huh.
could come on and they could talk about the new games and blah blah blah. Like that's kind of how I felt about doing audio. And I was like, audio is the new literature, really.
Mhm.
Like, I'd rather have the ability to go, oh, yeah, maybe I said this thing that I maybe didn't think.
Mhm.
When I was younger, man, I used to make fun of so many people. I was such a mean guy. I
Yeah, we
like
all
my
evolve.
jokes were cruel. Um, I mean, I still make some cruel jokes, but they're funnier now.
Mhm.
Like before, it was just cruelness for cruelness' sake, but now it's like, all right, I have more life experience now, more
Yeah.
wisdom, where I can like read somebody and understand where to kind of be a
Yeah,
little
I
more
get that.
accepting.
I think it's important to have the ability to like, for anyone to be able to, like, laugh at yourself,
Mhm.
even if you are the butt of a joke. To just be able to be like, "Oh, well," like, so confident in who you are as a person that, like, it doesn't affect you. Just like, "Oh, well,
Well,
it's just a
yeah,
joke."
I mean, sometimes people see what the finished product is, and they didn't see the whole build. They just see
Yeah,
the end result that you want them to see. They
yeah,
don't see like the years and years that things didn't go your way, and you maybe weren't considered good, or you know decent,
yeah. It's like
or
you've created a time capsule for your own, like, thoughts and ideas.
yes. I have a segment on the show. I'm gonna do it later, but I always say I call that audio time travel, where I say that the words you say right here and right now are going to be heard exactly in 20 years from the people who love you the most, who want to know
Yes.
these things
Yeah,
about
you
you.
did. You mentioned that on that expert panel that we were on last
Yeah,
week. I think that's why I remembered that.
yeah. And this is like a timestamp, and so I mean, like, I started doing this podcast in 2017, right? So I was 33 years old. I'm 41 now. So I could go back and listen to this stuff and be like, this is the type of person I was. This was the situation I was in. This is my living situation. This is what my job was at the time. Like a lot of it'll just be a timestamp for me and maybe for the people who love me. You know what I mean? And this will be part of what my legacy could be. Like
Mhm.
I know that I've had podcast guests who are no longer with us. And I'll go back and I'll listen to those episodes and I'll say, here's a timestamp. Here's the on the record of me talking to that person and saying like how I truly felt and having them tell me how they truly feel. And like that makes me feel so cool to like know that I have that for
Mhm.
for any like let me make this like really weird, pretty recent pretty recently my fiance's like former mentor just passed away, and
Mhm.
I when he was alive I said, let's have a conversation, the three of us, and I'll put it on the record so that like that way we'll always have that. And then we had that, and he passed, and she's listened to it like three times already, and like it's helped her immensely because it's like he said certain things on it that we still quote all the time, like
Mhm.
it's it's a cool platform, and I love being able to share that platform with people who I know will appreciate it.
Yeah, it's definitely meaningful, especially, yeah, to each individual person and whether they're connected to you or connected to the person that you're having that conversation with, people appreciate that. Especially when it's like the case of somebody passing and that was like one of the last records of them
Mhm.
like on file and anywhere. Like
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
yeah. I love the idea of like I'm not like a social media person really. I don't really spend too much time posting things online. Like I don't like what I'll post the most of is me doing podcasts, but I
Mhm,
don't post a lot of like me going, here's what my opinion is on this thing. And
mhm,
this, I don't think that people should care enough about what everybody thinks because everybody's always going to think different things about different stuff. Like,
mhm,
not everybody knows everything. Not
mhm.
everybody's got it all figured out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not your source for how to feel about this and that and this and that.
Mhm.
I'm your source for bringing value into your day and
Yeah.
maybe making you smile every once in a while and making you laugh and telling you a silly joke. And I would hope that that sort of thing and that sort of sincerity would bring value into the lives of anybody who would, hit the download button or hit subscribe or however the people do, like and subscribe and comment and all that stuff. Any of those
Yeah.
people who would interact with me, I would hope that I'm just doing nothing but bringing value into their life.
Mhm.
And I don't have time. Like I just got off the phone with a friend of mine who was like, I don't know if you've been looking at on my Instagram stories, but this is what happened with me. And I'm like, I don't look at no Instagram
Yeah.
stories.
I always
I'm
kind of feel bad when people say the same thing to me. I'm like, "I'm not looking."
It's like it's not because of you. It's not
Yeah.
you. I mean, if if I was the type of person who would look at Instagram stories, yours would be one of the ones that I would look at. But
Yeah.
I'm not one of those type of people who looks at those things.
Yeah. It feels like almost like I guess kind of going into, like, the evolving, I feel like I had to adopt, like, a new mindset. You get a train there, that's fun. Um, I'd adopt a new mindset around, like, social media. I feel like because our society is evolving that way, and like, I've had so much resistance to it. Like, originally, I was like, "If I had it my way, I'd be off the grid. I wouldn't want to, like, try to keep up with everyone. I wouldn't wanna have to, like, share, like, so much with everyone." But then I, like, realized a lot of things that were important to me and, like, why I love sharing. And I kind of, ended up being like, "Well, I must I feel like I must do this." And again, it's like your mindset on it, like, I don't have to do that, but in where my business lies, that's where a lot of it is located online because the reality of it is a lot of people are online, and it's a way to reach a lot of people that you wouldn't normally be able to otherwise. And so I feel like I've had to, like, shift that way, and now I'm like, I found myself kind of resisting, like, AI in a way, but then I kind of recognize the same pattern. I'm like, "Well, this is where our society is going, so I have to evolve, like, my own thoughts to adapt to use these kinds of tools because this shit ain't going away." And
Yeah,
sorry for my language, but
it's fine. It's fine. It's
hopefully that's
fully
okay to
it's fully
profanity.
yeah. It's fully okay. I'm gonna say I flirt with the idea. I am maybe a beard tear away every day from deleting Instagram and deleting Facebook and deleting social media, Twitter, whatever, all those platforms. But then I go, but I gotta stay relevant. I gotta get booked. I gotta have bookings. I have to like I have to be Cory Kastle, the wrestler, and Cory Kastle, the comedian, and Cory Kastle, the podcaster, who has like, if I don't have the ability to share the podcast episodes or the clips or whatever I'm throwing out there with social media, where am I sharing it?
Mhm,
Who's seeing it otherwise? I mean, I'm it's all about the currency of time and effort. It's all about the people's attention, and
mhm,
that's another part of how I always talk about how important the currency of effort and attention are. So, like,
mhm.
what you find yourself scrolling and what you find yourself locked into,
Yeah,
like
consuming.
that's occupying your subconscious mind, and you're bringing more of that sort of stuff into your being,
Yeah,
into your cycle. So that's why I had to cut out like horror movies, and I
yeah,
like I love horror movies, but
yeah.
it's a
I'm in the
dark.
same place. right now where I'm like, I recognize that like horror movies and like I used to love like reading horror books, but like I'm starting to like the messaging of that like subliminally and like just every like the energy that it's connected to is very dark and like I don't yeah, like that just brings more of it into your life when it
What just the new season of The Last of Us just came out,
Oh,
and I'm
really?
like, I want to see it, but I'm gonna wait till Halloween time. I'll watch it. Like I give myself the pass when it's around Halloween time. I can watch horror stuff,
Yeah.
but when it's not around Halloween time, I don't want to. And a new series just came out, and I watched the first episode, and I was like, I want to watch the rest of it. But Alyssa watched it with me because it looked like it was going to be really good and funny, and it had like Kevin Bacon is in it, and
Mm.
it's called Bounty. It's like Bail Bondsman, I think it's called, and I was like, oh, this looks fun. But it's like apparently like he was a bounty hunter when he was alive, and then he got killed on a job, and the devil sent him back up here to hunt demons or something like that.
Oh,
So it was like it's very dark, and it's like it gave her nightmares, and I was like, I can't do that to you. I
yeah.
can't do that. I can't do that to myself. Like I realize that I'm not having those same dreams, but like that those thoughts are dancing around up here somewhere.
Yeah, and,
And
like
I don't
well,
really.
this is where I get into conspiracies on, like, energy and, like, spiritual stuff, because I was just at and super cool event, I was just at the Long Beach Grand Prix
Mhm.
yesterday, and my boyfriend did this, like, you swing a sledgehammer, and then the thing goes up and it rings the
Rings the
bell if
bell.
you get it all the way
Yeah.
to the top. And it just observing, like, while I was there, just I feel like I learned so much just I'm, like, very, like, energetically sensitive, and I've gotten more so as I've in my own conspiracies as I've had, like, injuries and things that make me more sensitive, but it was it was a company, like a tequila company that's called, like it's Jose Cuervo Raising a Little Hell, and they were giving out, like, devil horns and devil tattoos and stickers
Mhm.
for, like, hitting this bell,
Mhm.
and maybe in the past, like, past version of me wouldn't have, like, cared as much because maybe I just didn't, like, fully understand, like, how some, like, subliminal stuff is, like, getting pushed out,
Right.
but we looked at, like, the tattoo stickers that he won, and we just threw them away because 'cause we're like, "This looks demonic. I don't wanna put that on my body." And
Mhm.
it just seemed like all the people walking around wearing devil horns are just like, I don't know,
Like,
that
oh, if you
darkness
give
is
out free
real.
stuff, if you give
Yeah,
out free stuff, everyone's going to represent your thing that like maybe shouldn't be as represented as it is.
yeah, yeah, and entertainment is such a huge way, like, especially in our society, like, people love entertainment, and a lot of the entertainment that's being pushed is, like, stuff like that, and as fun as those shows are to like, I'm rewatching Stranger Things right now, and as I'm rewatching it, I'm like, I feel like I shouldn't be watching it. But, but it's interesting, but it's like, I don't know. There have been a lot of, like, interactions that I've had recently too that point to how very real that stuff is.
Yes, Stranger Things was a one-time watch for me. I don't think I want to rewatch that stuff. Like all that upside down stuff. Uh, there's something to that. Like
It is yeah, there is, and
there
it's like
is definitely like another realm right here that we just
yeah,
don't know about.
and it makes it more real as I'm rewatching because my boyfriend's never seen it, so we're watching that's why I'm rewatching it.
Mhm.
And as I'm rewatching it, it's like I feel like whenever you rewatch anything, it's like you know more than you did the first time you watched it.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. I've
it's so interesting.
sorry to interrupt you,
Oh,
but
you're good.
I just was telling my sister. I was like, do you know the show, The Righteous Gemstones?
No.
It's a comedy show about like this super church, and it's Danny McBride and John Goodman and Adam Devine.
Is it like a cult like? show?
something similar to that, but
Okay.
it's got Walton Goggins is in it. Um, but either way, I was telling my sister, I was like, I watch every episode twice because I watch it once with Alyssa and I watch it once with Justin, my brother. I'm
Mhm.
like, and she's like, "Whoa, you must really like that show." I'm like, "Yes, I really do. I think it's very entertaining."
Yeah. I
But
mean, I feel like as long as it's good, I feel like the more aware you are about the message of the show, then it's like, I don't know. Also having the ability to, like, not let it affect you as much if it's not, like, the best thing to be consuming. Um, but I feel like when so I'm listening to this audiobook right now, speaking of, like, also having audio be the new, like, literature, because I
uh,
love reading. I have so many books, but sometimes, like, I really only have time to listen to, like,
mhm,
literature. And it kinda ties in with the consumption like, just society consuming, like, information and ideas, but they're not, like, aware of the messaging of, like, the advertisements and, like, companies that know how human psychology works, and so they're playing on their ability to get you to buy something, um, and just, like, stuff like I don't know where I was going with that, but this is, like, another rabbit hole that I go into, um and I think what I was saying with that is it's like the will of a person. Um, like, if you have a strong will and you're, like, confident in who you are and, like, your ability to do whatever it is that you're doing or how you're helping people and, like, your ability to know, I guess, how in alignment you are with, like, your true self or, like, what you want. Versus, like, somebody who's, like, not as strong-willed, who will be more swayed and persuaded by maybe, like, the glitz and glam of something and, like, being, like, lured in a certain way to do something, whether it's buying something, being a part of a group. I mean, I could talk about cults too and, like, what is considered a cult and, like, all that stuff, but
I'm right there with you. The exact stuff. Like I feel like I feel like flags and signs and stuff that people have. Like, come on, get a life. Like when I see that stuff, I'm like, you're such a dork for having that. Like,
yeah. Well, people tie it to their identities.
right.
And I feel like it's so dangerous when you identify with like well, it could be dangerous when you identify with something and you make that thing like your like who you are and like
It's unsafe.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because like that might be the one thing about you that one person might judge in one way and treat you a certain way or do a certain thing to you that they wouldn't have otherwise done had you not had that identifier.
Yeah.
So
And then because it's like such a big part of who you are, like if you maybe you only identify with one thing versus like identifying with like multiple things, the person that identifies with like all these different things or doesn't identify like doesn't have anything tied to their identity is not going to be like nearly as upset with like a funny joke that somebody would make or like you know if you make it everything that you are then it drives like your energy and who you are as a person if somebody were to quote unquote like attack like your like what you identify with.
right. And it's ever changing too. Like what you are like, okay, I really like this thing and I'm gonna wear its apparel. I'm gonna put it on on my chest like it's my declaration of everything.
Mhm.
And then you find out some crooked things about that thing. This is the same thing I said about writing a book. Like what I liked 10 years ago isn't what I really all the way agree with now.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm not so sure that I had gross things in my past. Like I don't have any incriminating things, but like you know, I did not really treat a lot of people with respect that everybody deserves. Everybody deserves to feel loved.
Right.
Everybody deserves to feel safe. Everybody deserves to feel like heard. Uh, but maybe not everybody who believes in what you believe in believes those things.
Mhm. Yeah.
Ever changing.
Yeah. And also with the ever changing, like having the ability to allow yourself to shift and change. And I'm sure you probably feel now like you're like a better person because you're treating people with more respect and you realize certain things along the way that made you want to shift. And so like allowing yourself to like have those insights and be like, oh wait, I had this new idea. Like now I actually don't feel as connected to this thing that I was doing or that I was wearing before. And
Right.
that's okay. And like allowing yourself to change and be like, I'm actually gonna like I did that recently, just throwing a bunch of stuff out of my closet, all my clothes that I used to wear that I just don't wear anymore. It feels like I have this like energetic connection with these things that is no longer who I am. And it's like, I don't have the desire to even wear that anymore. So why am I going to hold on to it? Like, I'm going to get rid of it. Maybe somebody else will like it and they'll want to wear it, and that's fine. But it's not who I am anymore.
Do you know Dustin Thomas? You ever listen to his music?
Dustin Thomas?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, he's got one song where he says, "Cast whatever doesn't serve you to the fire,"
Mm.
uh, and um, I'll send you a link to it. I
Yeah.
think you, but
Feels
but
relevant.
it's relevant, yes. But I do get wrapped up in like completely falling for being something. I wrote this down in my notebook recently, and I haven't done anything with it, and I don't think I will, but I'll talk about it right now. I I was like, imagine, like some people. I don't know, you and I probably not talk too much about my wrestling career, but some people will think of pro wrestling and then they just cast it off like it's nothing. They go, "Pro wrestling, that's fake. Why would anybody like that? That's fake." And like negating that people who do it understand that it is what it is, and the fans who enjoy it understand that it is what it is. We're
Mhm.
not trying to fool anybody. This is all
Mhm.
theater. this
Yeah.
is all this is all art.
Mhm.
This is all uh, it's a combat sport art, but every single thing hurts. We're sacrificing lots about like our identity and like our relationships with our friends and our families and everything for this thing that you're saying is fake and isn't even worth anybody's time. So you're saying I'm fake and I'm not worth anybody's time. Like then I immediately turn that around and I go, but what are you doing with your life that's so
Yeah.
special? And I consider the source on that. But I
Mhm.
then started thinking about like, can you can you honestly say that everything that you consume, you're all the way certain that it's not any percentile of fake? Like think if every movie, not every movie, because of course every movie that you watch is fake, but uh, think about every concert you ever been to. You think every concert you've ever been to that has been like a pivotal moment in your life or a game changing memory that you'll cherish forever. You
Mhm.
think every single one of those concerts, those people were all the way actually singing their songs without any assistance? Like,
No.
like Right. And then if you all the way find out that that's a fact, that like those people weren't actually singing those songs, then do you hate music forever? Like it's not worth your time. Like and then I went, the only people who have the right to say fake are wrestlers. We're allowed to do it. You guys can't.
Mhm.
The same way black people get to say the N word and nobody else can.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
can't
I
say
think
the N word.
it's and some people will, like, go to extremes, though, and do that, be like, "Oh, it ruined this whole entire thing for me," where they're, like, globalize, like, an
Mhm.
issue, and then it just, like, puts off, like, a whole subset or whole category of whatever it is just because this one event, like, this one thing.
The amount of like heels being dug in to the ground on topics that you don't know all the details surrounding it, and it's designed so that you won't know all the details surrounding it. Like
Mhm,
you're only getting a tip of the iceberg on a lot of the things that you're like all the way passionate about.
mhm,
um, it's that's why it's tough to, like you said, to join groups, to
mhm,
to to join movements, to do
Yeah.
protests. All of that stuff is like, do you know all of it? Like
Mhm.
like it's I'm not like I'm not neglecting or minimalizing those people who get strong feelings about things and feel like they've got to do something. Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. I understand the drive, but like we're divided enough as people. Like let's band together and be
Yeah.
more together than divided.
I think it's the understanding still. Like I sometimes I catch myself like seeing the differences, which I think are important in terms of like understanding how other people are unique and different. However, we're all like, like we're all interested in maybe some of us have overlaps in interests and other people like don't,
Right.
but it's like the mechanism of enjoyment or like or the just the fact that like you are enjoying something, I feel like is similar. Like we'll all experience like very similar emotions, although like they might come up in different ways. Or like, but we all experience grief as humans eventually at some point. We all experience hopefully joy and stuff like that, but it's like maybe it happens in a different way for one person than it does for another, and I feel like it's the same with that. So it's finding like the understanding and the respect for that person to be interested in what they are. And I feel like that's where it's like kind of like a catch 22 in a way with even like some of the stuff that I talk about. Um, but it's also knowing that like not everyone is going to find enjoyment in what I do, and that's fine. And and if I let that drive me, then I would be frustrated all the
It's
time.
really funny. I go right into like what I like isn't for everybody, and I know I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. You can like what you like. You can. I'm not gonna yuck anybody's yum. Like go right for it. Go
Mhm.
ahead and like what you like, and I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
Um, what are the things you'd say you're like a dork for? Is there anything that you're like, like I would consider me a dork for this thing if I wasn't me.
Yeah. Um, I never thought I'd be this person, but I really love rocks. Sounds so weird to say, like, um, but so, like, I have one right here, but I feel like we can all agree on its, like, natural beauty.
Oh yeah, my mom used to have rocks like that. Yeah.
Like, it's so pretty, and I just get so fascinated. This is probably another, like, rabbit hole in a sense, or, like, just something I nerd out on is, like, I have this actually, I should show you, this one's super cool. This one that is from the Cretaceous period, so like when dinosaurs used to roam the earth. But it fossilized and created this, the Earth.
Whoa.
And they call it a dinosaur egg,
Hmm.
but it's actually a mud bubble
Hmm.
that fossilized, and this is what it looks like. And because of like the minerals and stuff that was present like at the time that this was like pressurizing and forming in the earth, this is what it made. It's so freaking cool, and I think it's
That's
like
very
just
fascinating. Yes.
the earth and like natural stuff like that.
Like
That I nerd out on that hard, and also like ancient, starting to dive into more like ancient civilization type
did you
stuff.
get did you have you gone down the rabbit hole of the like the Anunnaki and the Sumerians and all that stuff?
No, I have to stop myself sometimes because this is like a late night kind of scroll when I should
Mm-hmm.
be sleeping.
Mm.
So I've only scratched the surface, and I
Well,
I
the
don't know what that is.
Forbidden Knowledge. There's a YouTube channel. This guy named Billy Carson. He's been
Okay.
on Rogan. Like it's funny that I've been following him for a while, and then I saw him on Joe Rogan, and then I saw there's a couple like I'm such a like a podcast comedy nerd that like I subscribe to a couple a couple channels. There's one called Podcast Cringe where they like debunk things that
Mhm.
are on popular podcasts. Uh, you guys can check out my podcast if you want to talk about talk about uh, they talk about popular podcasts, not unpopular podcasts. So I mean, maybe they'd help make mine popular if they talked about it. But they talked about Billy Carson. They talked about like him being fact checked by Bible scholars, and
Mm.
it was interesting. And I subscribe to another podcast called or another YouTube channel called Comedy Enforcement, where they just like play back stuff that has happened on Joe Rogan and Burt Kreischer
Uh-huh.
and Kill Tony and all those like way more popular podcasts than mine. But well,
That's interesting. Because sometimes you don't know, like, when you hear things, you're like, "Oh, is that actually true?" Or
right, right. There's no immediate fact checking on on most things. I mean, I guess there could be, uh, but
AI will handle that.
right, right. They've got to be fingers on the pulse on fact checking in real time. They want to eliminate liars completely.
Yeah. But I guess that's where it gets a little rocky with what's classified as, like, freedom of speech or whatever. I feel like speaking from experience, you can't really like debunk or like fact check somebody who's like talking about their own personal experience. But I feel like that all should come with like a disclaimer anyway. Like this worked for me, but like it might not work for you. It's like usually what I.
And like full context is gone. Like full context of it. Like especially if AI is trying to fact check and doesn't
Yeah.
understand the
Oh, you
full
said this one thing that.
right. Like I was live on TikTok recently. I was talking about pro wrestling, and I was talking to my friend Lou, and I talked about how because Lou is also a wrestler, or was a wrestler back in the day, and we were talking about this feud that was going on, and in wrestling, sometimes when you're like with somebody and you're like stuck in a feud with somebody, like we in the wrestling business we call that a marriage. Like somehow we're like the same way you'd married like ketchup together, like like you're in a marriage with this other wrestler, and
Mhm.
I called it a weird, strange marriage or something. And TikTok kicked me right off a live, and they're like violation, hate speech, and I'm like, there's nothing hateful about what I said at all. Like I don't know what you're thinking I'm talking about. I was like,
Yeah. It
I,
just doesn't understand.
I just didn't clarify enough that like
Yeah. And it wouldn't get jokes or like sarcastic vocal tones
right
either.
there's
Because I've had
right
TikTok videos flagged and stuff
hmm
too. And I'm like,
right
I was
right.
clearly being sarcastic in the video, but, like, because of certain things, they're like, "Oh, this is flagged, and we took it off." I'm like,
Oh man,
"Okay."
I made this one TikTok. I was on here uh, telling a funny story about how. Uh, do you remember? Do you remember back in the '90s? There was a wrestling group called D Generation X, and they would tell everybody to suck it all the time. They would
I feel like it sounds vague, but because I grew up watching and loving wrestling. I actually had,
right.
like, a pro wrestler as one of my neighbors, and so
Mhm.
I got to meet a bunch of, like, cool I like pro wrestlers, but I can't, like, fully recall that.
Yeah,
They
well, I
tell
mean,
people
you're
to
young,
suck it.
right? So, I mean, that was like in the '90s, so you were
Yeah,
probably too young at that point.
yeah.
But there was a wrestling group that told everybody to suck it all the time, and I went to this show, and the one wrestler was wearing a Santa Claus hat, and he used to always say, "If you're not down with that, I got two words for you," and then the whole crowd would then say, "Suck it."
Uh-huh.
Uh, and he had a hat on, a Santa hat, and he said, "If you're not down with Christmas time, I got two words for you." And then the whole crowd yelled, "Suck it!" And I
Yeah.
looked at my friend Lee, and he was like, "I'm Jewish. I don't celebrate Christmas. Is Billy Gunn telling me to suck?" And I put that story on Instagram or on something, and it got. I said, I because I put like Jews tell the Jews to suck it, or something like that. And they're like,
Yeah, you're like,
it was all comedy. Like
yeah,
anybody, it's for everybody. It
yeah,
wasn't like anybody's excluded from it.
yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah,
that's
it's just
funny.
like it's like a like a trigger happy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
more than anything, like they're just eager to go. No, not you.
yeah,
And like I, I think I might have put like a copyrighted song on an episode, and they flag it right away. I'm
yeah,
like,
right away
do you
within
see
30
how
minutes.
much money I'm not making from this? I'm not trying to steal anything from anybody.
Yeah, yeah. I know, it's crazy with the copywritten stuff too. But it's funny, I posted a video, I feel like it's really cool. It's, like, something that doesn't normally happen, and so I was like, "I have to take a video of this, and I'm gonna post it." I have, like, this seafoam green, balcony on my roof deck, and it was, like, the perfect time in spring where apparently all of the ladybugs wanted to be mating, and they like and are attracted to certain colors, I guess, so they can be found during this time.
Mhm.
And I'm just so confused because all these ladybugs are flying around, and I'm like, "Am I the luckiest girl in the world?" But I'm, like, walking around, like, with, like I'm, like what's it called? I'm, like, basically doing like, voicing over, like, showing and, like,
Okay.
talking over the video, like, "Look at all these ladybugs." Like,
Mm,
they're well, I don't want this to get flagged, but I'm like, they're doing the nasty basically, and I was just, like, trying to have funny commentary, like,
mhm,
showing all of these ladybugs, like, hundreds of ladybugs on my roof,
mm.
and, yeah, TikTok didn't like it very much.
Eh,
Like, this is a really cool, like, nature thing, but I guess I needed to watch my
what the
commentary.
language you were using was the problem, I think, right?
Yeah, it was.
Mm.
Like, maybe if I had, like, a voice, like, um who's like one of those
Like Steve
famous
Irwin, the crocodile hunter.
yeah, or like
Oh,
somebody that
look
does
at
those
that.
nature voiceovers.
Right. Mhm.
Like, if I spoke like that, maybe and the content of what I was saying was probably inappropriate. But I'm like, "Well, I thought it was funny." Just like, several ladybugs on top of one another, You can get the idea.
This the sorry, I have to keep on that keeps freezing on me.
Oh, you're
Uh,
Kim.
yeah. The the context and the nuance is completely gone. And I mean it's like that with everything being your opinions being read. When anything's written down in words, uh, no one's gonna hear it the way that you're saying it. So
Yeah.
um, it's like I don't, I don't know if you've seen this. Do you know Key and Peele? Are
Mhm.
you from when they do that sketch where they're texting back and forth?
I don't
And
know
he's
if
like,
I've seen that
"Oh,
one.
I was like, are we still meeting tonight?" And the other guy goes, "Oh man, I forgot. I'm sorry. Whatever. I don't care. Let's do it." And the other guy reading the text message, he's like, "Whatever. I don't care." Like, and he started getting outraged, and he's like, "Want to go? Let's go right now, mother!" And like, and he's like, got all angry, and he's like, "Meet there." He's like, "The first round's on me," and he's like, "There ain't gonna be no rounds." And then he
That's
started talking
funny.
like I said, first round's on me, and he had a beer for him, and he's like, "Oh, never mind." He had a
That's
baseball
hilarious.
bat with nails in it, and he was like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a present for you." And he's like, "Oh, for my post-apocalyptic Jackie Robinson costume. Thanks, you're so sweet."
That's so funny. Yeah. I mean, Key and Peele are hilarious, but that definitely, like, shows just lost in translation or lost in communication, like, the vocal tones and just, like, how so much could get lost over text. It's like,
Well,
so
like
many
it,
things could be prevented if like, that's why I kinda like voice notes now 'cause it's, like, kinda quick, and it's nice to hear someone's voice, especially if I'm, like, telling a story or explaining something, I'm like, "Oh, no, it's not a big deal." But when
Mhm.
you're reading something, it's like, "Oh, it seems more serious than it is."
For sure. Being able to hear somebody's tone is an important part of understanding what they're trying to say. For sure.
Huge. Pointing to
I,
audio as a one of the best forms of
yeah, exactly.
literature, again.
Hit that download button.
I
You
also
know,
wait, what?
a thing that I've done a few times on here, and it cracks me up. Is I like to challenge you to say into your microphone whatever song you like the most. Start out by saying, "Hey Alexa, play blah," and say whatever song it is that people you think should be listening to.
Uh-huh.
That Alexa could probably find, and see if it triggers
They're
somebody's
listening
listening
to
Alexa, and see what happens.
yeah, that's funny.
So, what
Um,
song would you pick for that?
so the one that popped in my head was,
Okay,
"Hey
good.
Alexa, play Don't Stop Believing."
Anybody who's Alexa, or you could say Siri, and it would probably set my phone off
Yeah.
because
"Hey Siri, play Don't Stop Believing." No.
no, I guess my Siri only recognizes my voice.
Yeah, your own voice.
Like that didn't sound like him.
Yeah.
Maybe if you did your best impression of me.
Oh gosh. I don't like
You
my
don't have
brain trying to calculate how to do that is not working. It's like the
you
wires
don't have
are like,
oh. So I was telling you the other day, I think my hair is probably the same length as yours at this time.
let's
And,
see.
and since we're talking about timestamps, I'm newly a blonde. This has just happened. Um,
Did you dye it or did you get some
uh,
sun?
yeah, I dyed it the other day.
Oh, nice. It looks like you have like a natural ombre.
Yeah, that's what you're
Oh,
seeing.
wow, you weren't lying. Let's see.
It's like maybe down. I don't know. Down to my butt.
Yeah. I mean, you probably have a longer torso than I do, so
Yeah,
maybe.
most likely. Very likely.
Like I can't even get all my hair in the frame. I'd have to like stand up and sit back.
Yeah, it's probably a very very comparable length
Yeah.
considering the size of me.
Yeah, yeah.
There,
How long have you been like growing your hair out?
I have had long hair since I grew my hair out for the first time in ninth grade, probably
Have you
tenth
ever
grade.
cut it or donated it?
No, no. I mean,
Since then?
uh, I I've had haircuts, but I haven't like had short hair again since high school, probably
Oh, wow.
because I was like, my hair is mine. I don't want to give it to anybody else.
I donated mine once in the 5th or the 6th grade, like right before the 6th grade. And my hair, I like cut off 14 inches and my hair was like this short.
Hmm.
Like, and but when my hair is this short, it doesn't have like the length to weigh it down. So it was
So
like
it stays up all the
like
time.
poofy
Yeah.
and it was just like awkward. And that was like in middle school years when life already feels so awkward every day.
Dude, every day is high stakes. The stakes are
Yeah.
high on
Like, oh
every
my
single
god,
day. Every
I'm gonna
school day,
survive.
what you're wearing, it's crazy.
Poor kids.
Mhm. Dude, I can't imagine having had social media while in school. I can't imagine. like like when we were in, or when I was in school, like you you put school down when you leave it. Like all the things that happened at school stayed there, and all the conversations and all the interactions and all the friendships and everything stayed there. There was not any communicating with anybody else when you got back. Like I can't even imagine the accessibility, the availability to just like continue to live that stress.
Yeah, it started happening like, it started being a thing when I was in school. So, what I would do in middle school is go on AIM or AIM, and it was
Mhm.
all like that Yahoo, like,
I,
instant
I
messaging
remember him. I
with
had
your
him.
friends, and so that's what I would do, and we were using, like, Skype and stuff to do, like to see each other,
Mhm.
but not, like, all the time.
Right.
But then that's when, like, phones like, I had got a phone when I was in the 6th grade, but it was one of those, like, flip phones, like a
Mhm.
razor,
Right. I had
and
a ring.
it was just for emergency purposes, I guess that's what my parents said. But it was
Mhm.
when you could only have, like, certain number of messages sent
Mhm.
each month.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, you would reach a limit and then you couldn't talk to your friends anymore.
Mhm.
And iPhones were not a thing. I know that I feel like probably a lot of kids now, like, couldn't yeah, they can't even fathom what that's like.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I mean, when I was in, I try to make a little more sense. Like I was not considered a cool kid. I was not considered a handsome boy, not one bit. Like having long hair did not. It was not popular. It was not a cool look. I was like, you'd be so much cuter if you cut your hair. Like
Yeah.
that I would hear that probably every day. I would probably hear that every day in school. Like, oh, you'd probably be better looking if you cut your hair. I'm like, oh, your probablys aren't enough for
Yeah,
me.
probably.
Uh,
Yeah, it's just like, well, I that's funny because I feel like even more now it's changing that, like, guys like, it's being, like, more normalized or whatever that guys can grow out their hair and, like, that's fine. But
right.
I feel like, yeah, there was a lot more freedom with people just saying whatever they wanted to say about how you looked or how you should be or what you should be doing and stuff. I feel like maybe people I don't know if people are more polite or not these days, or
No,
kids
now they
still
have
don't have a filter.
accessibility to just say that right to your phone when you're at
That's
home.
true.
Like, so
It's
I
almost
mean,
easier.
it's easier to be a keyboard warrior or whatever
Yeah,
to people who you would have normally said a mean thing right to their face.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh my gosh, it's reminding me of there was this thing that, like, in the beginning of my high school years, they banned it, and probably for a good reason, but it was called Form Spring, and you could anonymously submit questions or, like, comments to people's page, and you everyone had their own page, and every time you answered a question, whether it was anonymous or not, it would show up, like, on your profile. And so people would post their links like, "Ask me a question," and people would be, like, ruthlessly mean because you had the ability to be anonymous. And so, yeah, there's a lot of drama.
what was the profiles? Were like was it just like the school profile? I don't, was it like your Facebook,
No.
your
It
MySpace
was like
page?
a weird, like, random social media. It was, like, around the time that
Oh,
Tumblr.
that was its own social media site was Formspring. You said.
Yeah, yeah. It was, like,
Hmm.
around the time that Tumblr was, like, more popular and MySpace, maybe was falling out,
Hmm.
um,
That
and
gives me a little bit more context. Yeah.
with
My,
yeah, with the time period of it, but it didn't
mhm.
last very long, and then you could view other people's pages and submit things to their page anonymously or not. And one of my cousins told me a story about this guy that she had a crush on. And this is like the end of the world, like if you're in like middle school or like high school, but
Mm.
accidentally forgetting to check anonymous,
So it went to his.
submitting something that's like, "You're so hot, like, I wish I could blah, blah, blah," and it wasn't anonymous. And she was like, "I thought I crumbled." Like, in
Bro,
the grand scheme of things, it doesn't no one cares, it doesn't matter, like, but in the moment,
dude,
it's like, "Oh my god."
talking to girls made me so nervous when I was young. Like, I never I never flirted with anybody. Like, I didn't, I don't think I ever, I think I had social media and stuff before I ever hooked up with anybody. Like, that was like, I think MySpace was like the way, like, I remember I was already, like, I never had girlfriends or anything when I was in school. Like, girls didn't like me at all. Like, I very sweaty armpits all the time. I had long hair. They didn't like that. And, um, yeah, and I was poor. Like everybody in my high school was like a rich kid, and I didn't. So I wore the same clothes all the time, and it was always like, oh, didn't you just wear that? Like that was a thing I heard a lot. Didn't you just wear that? So I couldn't imagine the amount of like comparing that kids get now. Like had I been a kid who had like the ability to have those voices hear me later, like when I got home. I couldn't
Mhm.
imagine like the bullying following me home. Oh, I couldn't imagine it.
Yeah.
I
That's
missed so much school because like kids were jerks. Kids were mean.
yeah.
Like I have this story, and I mean I'm not gonna get into too many details of it, but like I remember I got put in special ed when I was in fourth grade, and I was never not in special ed again. Like from fourth grade to senior year of high school, I was in special ed because I was diagnosed with ADD. So they put me in special ed, and they had an assembly in the gym where they had the full like fourth grade class all uh, get together for this picture. And the one of the kids said to me, "You shouldn't be in this picture. You should be in the picture with all the retards." Uh, and I cried so hard. I went home
Yeah.
and I cried to my mom. I didn't want to be in special ed, and I cried to my mom. And my mom said, "Consider the source of who said that to you. Like his home life might suck. Like he might not have family that loves him as much as you. He might have this going on. He might have that going on." And like she was like, at the end of the day, just like you can feel sorry for him. Like you can feel sorry for that guy. He felt like he had to say that to you. Like
Yeah.
that. There's got to be something damaged within that boy.
Mhm.
And then years later, and so like high school goes all the elementary schools and middle schools get back together in high school, and then
Mhm.
we were in high school, and that kid was in sped too. And then years after we graduated high school, um, that dude was working the counter at Burger King, and I was like, all right, yeah, well, um, I'm not too bothered by it. That's why I let all that stuff go. I put
Yeah.
all like the weight I'm carrying with me, like, oh look how I was bullied and I'm a oppressed boy. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
I got so much greater things, and I got so much so much more in front of me than any of the stuff that's behind me. Like the as cliche is, but the windshield is way bigger than the rear view mirror.
Yeah. Oh, I've never heard that before. I love that.
I have so much more ahead of me, and I've lived so much better things. And there's so many like things that I thought were so relevant that are so irrelevant when I look at all the other things that I've been able to accomplish.
Yeah.
I was talking to Alyssa about it the other night, and I was like, "We've done so many cool things. Like we just went to Hershey Park this weekend. We
That's cool.
there
In
was our
Pennsylvania?
yeah, and I was like." we've done so many cool trips and adventures and concerts and events that like we can forget about. Like we forget about some of this stuff. I'm like, remember when we did this? Remember when we did that? I'm like, oh yeah, wow, we did do a lot of that really cool, big, fun stuff. And uh, it's always going to be big, cool, fun stuff
Mhm.
if you don't go like, well, this one little thing really hurt my feelings, and I'm hurt over that forever.
Yeah.
We have so many right nows that we waste on right nows that we'll never get back.
Yeah. So true. It's like being caught up like in the past and letting it affect you right now, like your right now moments,
Hmm.
and being so stuck there that like there's nothing in your like windshield, like in that you're looking forward to. And I mean, it can feel like a lot like in the moment too, because that like probably hurts. Especially like it's interesting that you said that he was in sped too. Like it's funny, like when you're able to step into somebody else's shoes and like but also like just focusing on yourself, but just having like a sense of understanding for like where that person is coming from, like in
Hmm.
the way that they're like disturbed in some way. Maybe disturbed's not the right word, but I always like to think, and like one of the first lessons that I learned about others is that, and even about myself, is that um, others can't, or you can't accept, what you can't accept in others, you can't accept within yourself. And so it's like almost funny that like he made that comment to you and then he was in the same place. And it's like he couldn't accept that within himself.
Hmm.
Um, and then that was the truth of what it was.
Hmm.
But then it's just having compassion for people. And it's so hard, but it's such a skill. But I feel like it boils down to again like knowing who you are and what you want, and like not letting any of that around you like affect you so much, because in the grand scheme of things it's just that's what they think and that's not important. And like what is important and that matters is like what you think, and like how you feel about yourself, and like the people that are around you that like love you and like know who you are too.
Do you know what an NPC is?
Yeah.
He was just an NPC. He was just an
Yeah. Just
NPC in the simulation that was this life for me. We're
exactly.
we're
I
all
think
living
that's
in a
smart.
simulation, and I. It's so funny that that's like a theory now, and like
Yes.
people get like. I also get lost in that. I get lost in the Mandela effects of everything. Uh, but when I think about like, I remember being. I'm gonna say I was probably like 6 or 7 years old. In my childhood bedroom, my mom had she had she had the United States map on this wall, and she had a world map on that wall, and there was like this little like cubby part of the room, and like it, and there was a toy box on the floor in between those two walls, and I remember like you could take the back that looked like a bench and put it forward and make it like a desk. I remember sitting at that desk with my hands like this and looking up at the United States map and the world map, and then looking at the TV. It was I just had turned it off, and it was like it still had like there was the tube TVs. They were
Mhm.
like, and I remember I had just turned that off, and I was like looking at those maps, and I was staring up and wondering about like who's looking at who's looking out my eyeballs, like who's this show for. I I remember having that thought, like I remember what I ate yesterday. Like
Yeah.
it's clear, being like,
Yeah.
what else is looking through my eyeballs and experiencing the TV show that is my life. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't think about that again until like I'm an adult, but
Yeah.
like now I think about that and I think about how often people like bring up the simulation theory and the
Yeah.
matrix, the Mandela effects and stuff.
Yeah.
There's there's some good ones. There are some good ones, and it is fascinating. It's fascinating that some of that stuff can't be explained away because like how can an entire country or an entire world misremember something. Like those like the Berenstein Bears. Like there was a theme park in Dorney Park when I was a kid that we went to called Berenstein Bear Land, and it was Berenstein Bears,
Uh-huh.
not Berenstein Bears or Berenstain Bears or whatever they're calling it. But it's like how, and then like deep diving into the large hadron colliders that they have going on at CERN, like those deep dives that I'll sometimes do, and I'll be like, ah, what is this world? What is the TV show that's going
Yeah.
through my eyeballs? Uh,
Yeah. Well, I think it's so interesting, like the way that you said, like how like whole like entire groups of people or like countries or like just whatever can forget or like how it can change over time. I feel like there's so much that has shifted that people, well, especially if you want to talk about the Matrix and like what like people believe as like what we need to do in this life and like, you know, just the typical or like I guess one from like a while ago could be called like the American dream, and I feel like that has gotten lost in time and like what that
mhm.
even means, and what that even is. But it's like this heavy drive of like people that are fueling certain ideas and they're the ones that are living it, but they're like so disconnected and unplugged. It's like the people within the matrix are driving the matrix, um and like that is like what life should be. And it's like it fuels me seeing that from the outside being like, no, I want to be a voice for people that see that and recognize it and remember life doesn't have to be that way. I can make life the way that I want to make my life, and I can think for myself and I can have my own ideas. And like it just makes me so excited and like just to have people remember like no, life doesn't have to go A B C D E F G, like it can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I think really when you talk about where you should be, and compare yourself to where you aren't, uh, you're going to attract more of where you aren't into your life, and your shouldas will stay shouldas and never become could'ves.
Mhm.
Uh, or maybe they were, maybe should'ves and could'ves are hand in hand. I don't know, but it's like my brain keeps going back to the phrase like when you change the way you see the world you see will change. So it's like
Mhm.
instead of being like, oh, I have to do this, I get to do this, kind of like
Yeah.
there's change a little bit of things here and there, and
Yeah.
that's kind of like what I want my impact to be, is to
Mhm.
like change people's perspectives on what
Yes.
could have just been autopilot observing the world, to then being like in front of it and deliberate creators in what their world is.
Yeah. Like, I like to ask people if they're so, like, especially set on something or they're confused about whatever behavior that they're having. I'm like, where did that come from? Is that something that you actually enjoy doing or want to be doing? Or is it something that, like, somebody else taught you or told you as a kid or, like, that you learned from society? Like, where is this coming from? Is this actually your thought, your belief? Um, because there's so many subconscious things that drive what we do. And when in language, like you're saying, language is so huge, and being able to shift your perspective, um, from like I have to do this to like I get to do this, and like this is something I actually enjoy doing. um, and it changes the energy completely around what you're doing when you
Mhm.
when you shift it like that, like your perspective.
I used to very early on in the podcast, I used to always ask every guest, what do you think happens when you die? And I asked this one guy pretty early on what he thinks happens when you die. And I remember him saying to me, You go to heaven or you go to hell, and that's it. And I said, why do you believe that? What gives you, what makes you think that? He goes, that's what I was raised to believe. I'm like, you believe everything you were raised to believe? Um, like maybe there's like maybe there's a deeper part of like but it wasn't like I don't want to seem judgmental of people
Yeah.
who believe those things, but I mean like the idea of going like here's what somebody else taught me,
Yeah.
and I still all the way believe the thing that I was taught
By
my
somebody
whole
else.
life by somebody else.
Yeah.
It's just it's funny to me.
It is.
So with that being said, what do you think happens when you die?
I feel like I haven't answered this question. I've thought about this like I feel like death is one of those first things that I started to accept like in like knowing myself journey. I'm like death is inevitable here on earth. Like everyone's going to die. Oh, and you can either fear that moment or you can just live your life in knowing that that's just a thing that happens and everything's going to be fine. So then you could either like live your life each day being afraid of dying or live your life each day like just okay accepting that fact and just doing whatever it is without that like looming fear that is very present for a lot of people. I grew up like pretty I grew up in the Catholic church. I went to Catholic school, and so I feel like I was taught one of the things in like Christianity that is very much a staple is like the 10 commandments. So I feel like I had like a basis of morality and understanding or like that's like also one of the teachings of like heaven and hell. Like when you die, you go to heaven or hell, and it just depends on the way that you live your life. Are you a good person or not, based off of sin and like judgment? But I guess the way that I see it now is like you create your own personal heaven and or hell, like on earth, based off of your thoughts and your actions and your behaviors. You can live a life that feels like hell, depending on what like you're attracted to and like what you're thinking and what's happening, or you can live a life that feels like heaven, like so much joy, happiness, connection, love. And I believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So if like when I die, my body's gone, but I'm not. Like my spirit and my soul lives on. Like it's from a different realm, one that we cannot like like a dimension that we cannot perceive, or most of us cannot perceive as humans, three-dimensional beings. Like our spirit and our soul is in the 5D, or so we're like light beings, and I believe that like when I die, like just my body is gone. Like this vessel on earth is just no longer going to be in action. It's but my soul like continues to go on. So that was my long-winded answer.
Well, I muted my microphone if you didn't notice because I had another train goes by. We live right next to the train tracks, so the trains go by, and
Every
you know
hour.
that's also a part of your theory. The trains just go by,
Mhm.
and uh,
Life goes on.
yeah. Uh, I just have a couple more quick questions for you, and then I'll send you off into the sunset with a hot dog and a handshake, if
Okay.
that's okay. Uh, First, you hear this train still going by? Can you still hear it?
Maybe very slightly. I have background noise where I am too, so
Uh, so I was talking about like on the record stuff, how important that stuff is, and how it's like a timestamp. I want to say to you how stoked I am that you were able to hang with me here today. How
thank you.
grateful I am for the currency of your effort and your attention, and I want to let you know. Uh, if I could ever be a resource to you in any way, a useful resource, if you just need a friend, if you need judgment free conversation, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. I've had the same phone number I've had since high school. Not to say that
Me
that's
too.
important, to, but I had the same phone number, and a lot of people change their phone numbers really quickly. Mine's always the same. I'll give it to you right after this. Uh, Whatever you want to talk about, judgment free conversation. I'm here for it. Um, and if if you can if maybe you think that I could have an answer to a question that you might have, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And uh, with that being said, I like to then swing it around and say to you, if you've got anything you'd like to ask me, now's your chance. Anything you'd like to say to me right now, you can say it, you can ask it. This hypothetically is your show right now.
All right, here we go. I guess I'm curious, like something maybe that came up is like, what was one of your most defining moments in life? And I guess you could interpret that in any way that you'd like, but maybe it was a moment where like you learned something important about yourself or just something that really like shifted your perspective. Like what
There,
triggered that for you or like what was like that defining moment in your life that a lot like that you could no longer unsee things like a certain way.
I think uh, oh, there's a lot. There's a lot of them, like a lot of really small ones, and there's a lot of really big ones.
Hmm.
I, if I want to give you multiple answers on the same question, I'd see a lot of things changing, when I'd say like when I got contact lenses when I was like 16, the world changed. I had peripheral vision for the first time. Like like I always wore glasses and I could never see everything. And then
Hmm.
when I got contacts, I could see everything. Like I had peripheral vision for the first time ever, and I was so stoked about it. And I didn't even think of the words for it until now. And that was almost, how long ago was that? That was like 20 some years ago, and I just now thought of the words to say that was the first time I had peripheral vision. I had
That's
never,
big.
and like my world was different back then. Like I remember, since I couldn't see anybody when I was younger, I almost always lived as if like people couldn't see me somehow. Like so, there would be times where like
That
I would
makes
like
sense.
probably I would, and a big part of like people would always like squint at me because that's what I would always be squinting at people. So people would squint back at me, like so like I got to see like people didn't treat me different like anymore. Like it changed the way other people saw me, and I think that changed the way maybe I saw myself a little.
Yeah.
And then and then when I was 27, I've told this story on here multiple times. When I was 27, I had a I had to have a craniotomy, which is a brain surgery. I had to have brain surgery um, where I really I don't know. I had this swelling in my brain because I had what's called an AVM. So I had an arterial venous malformation. So the veins in the front of my brain here didn't form correctly when I was in utero in my
Mm.
mom's stomach. And so the fact that they didn't form correctly then caused a brain bleed, which like flooded the front of my brain with blood. And I had a seizure. I had a seizure while I was taking a shower. And it was like, uh, the
Scary.
seizure, the seizure, uh, when I fell out of the shower, I fell onto the toilet. Like I fell out of the shower, and the curtain wrapped itself all the way around my face and my head, my neck. And most it was like a Thursday. Most Thursdays I was home alone, but this Thursday I happened to not be home alone. Most times when I take showers, I lock the door and turn my music up all the way, but I didn't lock the door that day, and I didn't turn my music on that day for some reason.
Yeah.
And then my mom saved me, and they choppered me to the University of Pennsylvania, where they gave her options for what they were going to do. I was still like way out of it. Um, may have been concussed a little bit,
Yeah. Probably.
and and they they gave the one of the options which we took. I'm not going to jump into too many details. Was that they were going to wait till the doctor went on vacation and came back from his vacation, and it would give time for the swelling in my brain to go back down. Um, so in that time, I had like 3 weeks to wait to do this surgery, and I remember in those 3 weeks thinking like, oh man, the amount of different person I'm going to be after this is over is going to be astounding. Like the I can't wait for this to be over and then return to wrestling. So then I could be somebody who's done that, because I don't know a whole lot of other people who've done that, and I don't know a whole lot of other people who have acted as some sort of inspiration to other people. So the thought of that kind of kept me going through those 3 weeks, when I was also in those 3 weeks looking up some horror stories about it
Yeah.
and hearing other people really upset about it, and then like visiting with some of my family members and wondering like if I'd ever see them again after this time, and like that was a little scary, and then coming back from that and like going back to wrestling, and now I've been wrestling longer since that happened than I was wrestling before that happened, and it's like it's almost like that never happened,
Yeah.
and uh, that was a big changer for me, I think. Um, and then, and then I think that sort of inspired me to be more vulnerable about sharing real things about me. Like
Hmm.
before that, I just never like I really kept a lot of things like bottled up, and I didn't tell everybody everything. Like not that like nobody was asking me anything, and I don't
Hmm.
think anybody still is asking me anything. But
Hmm.
like I'm more open to go like, um, this is how I truly feel about a thing, and not like make things up.
Yeah.
Not to say that I'd ever been that type of person, but
Yeah.
in wrestling, and I mean, you said you knew a pro wrestler. In wrestling, people make things up a lot. They
Hmm.
just they tell them they they commit to a lie so much. Like pro wrestling's a work, so we get taught this art form, and it's hard to separate uh, the art form we call it's called kayfabe. It's hard to separate uh, kayfabe from a shoot, and a shoot is the real life. And I think a lot of times people aren't all the way honest with who they are because they're like trying to protect the show.
Yeah.
And it's like like I don't think I have a show to protect.
Yeah.
I'm all the way this dude.
Yeah.
Um, and
Seems like it'd be exhausting to keep up with
right, it's
protecting the show.
yeah. I mean, well, like there is a sacred thing to it. Like it has its sacred ways. Like it's
Hmm.
the magician's secrets sort of thing. So
Right.
like there is a sacred element to it, but it's also like anything that you'd ask me and I would lie to you about. Like you could find the truth out easily by listening to other people who have exposed us,
Uh-huh.
exposed our work, have exposed kayfabe, and
Uh-huh.
it's like uh, it's I've kind of like lived inside of this like kayfabe is kind of dead at this point, and that was a huge changer for me. And I think a lot of it also was like when I was a kid, I just dreamed about being a WWF wrestler. I thought I was going to be in the WWF my whole childhood. And then when I started wrestling for a couple of years, I saw uh, a lot of people way less talented than me making it quickly
Uh-huh.
because they knew the right people. And I realized it was way more about who you knew and like who you were related to. And
Yeah.
like, I didn't want to say that like disenfranchised me to the whole thing, but it's like, I'm like, then I'm looking at like the more current realities of it, and I'm going like, oh, I'm in my 40s now, and I'm a brain surgery survivor. Means I have a history of head injuries. Uh, and I go like, well, I just got to blaze my own path, or as Incubus would say, find yourself a back door. And that's what I'm working on. Like I'm constantly just building my brand to what it is. I'm
Hmm.
constantly putting out my shows, and I'm constantly really promoting people to be as authentic as they possibly can and change their outlook on life from being a passenger to being a driver.
Yeah.
Because
That's
like
cool.
gonna it's it always could be way worse, but it always could be way better.
Hmm.
And if you've been down before, you know you've probably been worse off than you are right now. And it is a matter also of telling that same stuff to my own self. Like
Yeah.
I have to give myself pep talks. And
For
this is
sure.
a joke I make on stage a lot. I've told it on this podcast before. When I say like, we gotta just stop comparing ourselves to other people. You see somebody and you're like, look at that car that they're driving. That's so nice. Look at that house that they're in. What a nice house. Look at their partner. That's a very attractive partner. They must have everything figured out. It's like, no, you don't know the inner workings. Maybe the way I look at it, birds. Some of them still get hit by cars. They got the entire sky. Not everybody's got it all figured out. So, like, put down your putting people on a pedestal thing and acting
Mm.
like they could be any better or any worse than you because other people are just other people. Like,
Mhm.
they're all just people.
Yeah. They'll have their own experiences and their own ideas and um, their own life that they live, their own upbringing, and I think it's so interesting. It's how like one of the beautiful differences between each of us, yet like similarities at the same time. But it's so important to be authentic and knowing what that is too, like what that authentic like part of you wants or needs or thinks.
Yeah. Um, I it's hard to like really put it all into like exact words really,
Yeah.
uh, but it's like we're I've heard Aubrey Marcus say this before, and I don't know where it's at, what it's actually a quote from, but it would
Hmm.
say, "We're all sandcastles that the tide is coming for." So like we're like let's let's be somebody who we'd always want to be.
Yeah.
Like if my younger self could see me now and who I've grown into, like of course they would be like, "Oh, you didn't ever made it to the WWF." Sure, that'd be one part, but the other part would be like, "Wow, you're a funny guy and you're nice to people and like it's it would be I would be proud. I would be proud. I think I make my 15-year-old version of myself who's on the inside very proud of who I am now as a man. That's not something I always could say.
Yeah. It's
I,
funny
I'm
thinking
yeah.
I was just gonna say it's funny thinking in that way because I I feel like I'm at a point now too because I'm 28. So if I was to even be like 10 years ago, did I think that I'd be the person that I am doing the things that I'm doing today, just like 10 years ago? when I was 18 and like just going to college. And it's like, you know, at that point, it's like, I mean, those are like, even if you don't go to college, just that time in your life as like a young adult and like really learning and forming your own opinions on the world. If hopefully you're doing that, it is like, I mean, I think any moment has the potential to be like a life changing, like defining moment. But it's just funny being able to look back and being like, yeah, would that version of me be proud of who I am today? And
Do you think?
if the answer is no, then like you probably have some work to do.
Okay, so staying with the theme uh, of right now is your moment. This is your show, right? Um, the audio time travel segment is where we're at. So right now, the next words you say fall onto the ears of yourself or your loved ones, your kids, your friends, your fans, anybody who wants to see who Emily Nader was in 2025. They're stumbling across this recording in 2045. The next words you're saying are going right into their ears as a timestamp of right here and right now, because you didn't have this to give your 28-year-old self when you're 18. So your 28-year-old self is giving this to your 48-year-old self.
Yeah. I mean, life is so good. That's what I'm feeling right now. And lately, just so blessed and grateful. I feel like coming out of, we have these like swings sometimes, just like natural pendulum activity in life. And I had definitely like I made it out of like this low point in the pendulum or in whatever period of growth I was in, but I always, especially the more that I've experienced those, and life doesn't always have to be that way, but it was for me recently. And now coming out of it and seeing it on the other side, I more so can remind myself that something good is coming always. And even in the moments where it hurts so much and sucks and life just feels awful in the moment, it gets better. And I feel like that's just something that, like, because of the ebbs and flows and the natural rhythm of the universe, and like, I always think about waves. Like, I live near the ocean, which I'm so grateful for because I feel like it allows me to use this kind of metaphor and like understand it, like, very, and like apply it to my life on a regular basis where, like, the rhythm of a wave, like, the waves are gonna go, like, they're gonna crash and they're gonna come down and they're gonna pull back and they're going to build up again and they're going to crash and they're going to pull back. And but sometimes also there's like a rip current based off of what's around it. And I guess you could consider this like chaos. Chaos versus like harmony. And you start to think about like science. I'm like a big science nerd. But sometimes that chaos that comes in that is like has a completely different formation than something that's in harmony shifts and changes something, but then like the natural order of things come back together in a harmonious way and sometimes build something even more beautiful from that chaos. So I like to use that. That like recently has been like a good metaphor for me where it's like, okay, yeah, like we can experience these lows, but knowing that like things are happening for us where it's like what got me here is not going to get me to where I'm going. So something has to change for me to be a new person to get me to where I'm going in like that next version of
The
myself.
one, the one podcaster I listen to a lot, he always says, if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So at some point that's got to change if you want something different. Um, and sometimes the world or God has a funny way of doing it for you. And it's not always something that you expected, but it ends up being the greatest gift as long as you see it that way.
Um, so with the same idea of hypothetically, this is your show. This is your first episode of your new podcast, Evolving with Emily. In the pilot episode, very Jerry Springer's final thought type of way, to the most valuable takeaways, to wrap them up in a pretty bow and send people home inspired to be better versions of themselves. What are you telling
Ooh, I'd say stay curious. Stay curious about everything, anything, yourself, what you're hearing, different ideas. I feel like when you invite like curiosity, it's like it's kind of exciting because anything can be, and it allows you to open yourself up to possibilities of what could be or maybe what it is or what it isn't. And so I think like staying curious is definitely like just allowing magic to enter the space.
me? That's so valuable. That's incredibly valuable. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Do you do any impressions at all?
Not like specific people or
Okay, you don't have to say who it is. I just in whatever your best impression of anybody is. Can you say the way we wrap it up? We will wrap it up by saying, "Be fun, have safe, keep evolving."
be fun, have safe, keep evolving.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know what's going to come out right now. Um, um, be fun, have safe, and keep evolving.
Thanks so much, Emily. That's I definitely know people who sound that exact same way. You sounded exactly like some of my friends, and and I appreciate you for hanging with me. If this is your first time, anybody checking out the podcast, if this is your first time, check out the other 350 episodes if you want, or hit that subscribe button so that you can check out future episodes. Comment, like, subscribe, do all the things that you do to up the algorithms. Tell somebody that you love them today. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, be fun, have safe, keep evolving.